Talk boxing news.
Rumbling around now, and it's your platform.
Yeah.
The winner of Jonas
That's
against
what I want.
Mayer.
Yeah, 100%. You know, this fight, obviously, it's my 6th professional fight now. I turned over as Olympic gold medalist. Everyone was like, oh, I wanted to move fast. I believe in myself. Robert Cracken believes in me. I know what I can do, and I believe, you know, I won the winner of that fight. Whoever wins, Mayer or Jonas, I'd like that fight next. Obviously, not looking past.
Sylvia Borto,
yeah, on Sunday, I want to go in, good performance. And then my main focus in 2024, I want to be chasing them world titles. I believe, you know, I beat Jonas, I beat Mayer now, but you know, I'm 29, I'm fit, I'm, you know, in my prime, and I don't want to wait around. I just want to go out there. I believe how good I am, and I believe that I'll get the wins who got them world titles at welterweight at the minute, whether it's Jonas, Mayer, Sandy, Jessica Mccaskill. I believe in myself, and I believe I beat them all.
Wow.
And so Lauren Price has effectively declared war on the reigning champions, the world titleists at 147 pounds, where she campaigns. She means to challenge for world title honors in the coming year after capping off this one with a potential win over Sylvia Bortot. And for what it's worth, I think she's going to get it. I don't think it's an accident that she's fighting Sylvia, of all people. Sylvia was just in action earlier this year against Mickaela Mayer. If Lauren Price wins, Sylvia will be a common opponent between them. Moreover, Mickaela is about to fight Natasha Jonas. She's about to challenge Natasha early next year for Natasha's IBF title. I'd wager that the matchmakers over there at Boxer may be anticipating a Mickaela Mayer win, which is why they've set up Lauren to face a common opponent between them. And if she doesn't? Lauren called out all the champions, all 3 of them. She called out Natasha Jonas, she called out Sandy Ryan, she called out Jessica Mccaskill. I will say that the fight between Lauren and the winner of Jonas versus Mayer is likelier to happen if the winner of the fight is Mickaela Mayer, who is a few years younger than Natasha Jonas, doesn't drive as hard a bargain, and doesn't have Natasha's reputation for being somewhat difficult. We know that at this point in her career, Natasha Jonas doesn't care what the critics say. She's going to navigate her career exactly as she sees fit. And maybe she's not too keen on fighting Lauren Price. Who knows? I mean, she wasn't too keen on having a rematch with Terry Harper for Undisputed at junior middleweight when both her and Terry were champions up there. Natasha Jonas, in spite of what the people wanted, she decided to move down in weight. She decided to campaign as a welterweight, and she's been there ever since. So criticism and public demand is not enough to affect Natasha Jonas. She's going to do exactly what she feels is right for her, whether people like it or not. Whereas Mickaela seems more amicable, more negotiable, and I feel that Mickaela is likelier to fight Lauren than Natasha is. We'll travel. If the price is right. A fight between Mickaela and Lauren likely generates more money, bit more money, and a bit more interest on the boxer side of things than here in America on the top-ranked side of things. That's saying that Mickaela Mayer could probably make more money as a traveling champion than one at home. Because I don't think that fight is worth the top rank what it is to Boxer. Boxer is in the process of trying to make Lauren Price a star, so they've got to pay to play. Lauren also mentioned Sandy Ryan, but the problem is Sandy's over there at Matchroom and DAZN, reigning WBO champion. If Lauren wants that fight, she's got to cross the street. Wouldn't say that Lauren Price is the A-side to Sandy Ryan. Sandy is the defending champion, to where Sandy's got to go to Lauren's side of things? I don't think so. She also mentioned Jessica Mccaskill, who's currently on the hook to satisfy her mandatory challenger in Ivana Habazin. And I think she will be successful. I think she will retain both the WBA and WBC titles. Beyond that, it's worth noting that when the fight with Jessica and Ivana went to purse bid, Matchroom didn't even bother to put a bid in. What that could mean is that Matchroom is no longer invested in the career of Jessica Mccaskill, that she might be a network and promotional free agent, and if she takes care of business with Ivana Habazin, and I think she can move on from that and see about entering into a deal with boxer that caps off with a Lauren Price fight and a nice size purse.
But why would she be a network and promotional free agent? Didn't she enter into a multi-fight deal with Matchroom?
That she did. And in the build-up of the Sandy Ryan fight, Jessica Mccaskill made some defamatory comments about Matchroom in reference to Alicia Baumgartner's anti-doping fiasco and how she may have been sabotaged by Matchroom.
Don't think they were happy about that, and on that predication, maybe they don't want to do business with her no more.
In any event, Lauren Price is targeting all three champions at 147, and that's what we can expect in the coming year.
She means to get at least one of them in the ring, and she might.
In other news, the boxing world is still reacting to the official press release for PBC's partnership with Amazon Prime that's set to begin next year. Kickoff card's supposed to go down in March, and I'm still left wondering if they're going to do any shows at all, in January or February.
I heard a rumor a few days ago that the Spence versus Crawford rematch is being tapped to go down in March, so perhaps that will be the show they kick off this partnership with. Veteran boxing scribe Chris Mannix said PBC will handle production for Amazon Prime events, sources told Sports Illustrated Now. A simple solution would be to bring over the entire Showtime workforce, but nothing is finalized.
Is that the same production team that did the bang-up job on the graphics for what was the David Benavidez versus Demetrius Andrade card? One graphic in particular that got a lot of attention because the names didn't actually match the fighters. Stefan Espinoza came out and said,
He said that Showtime wasn't responsible for that graphic, that snafu, and that graphic was from the international broadcast.
even if it was, who's the international broadcast getting their signal from? Moreover, it's still a PBC show. Does the PBC have no oversight on their graphics department? Did they have two graphics departments during that show?
One at Showtime and another one for everywhere else. It seems an awful waste of money if this was the end result. In any event, Stefan Espinoza washed his hands of it, but the people at Paramount, the people above him, they washed their hands of him. And Showtime Boxing.
Thus, they've entered into some new kind of deal with Amazon Prime, a new deal that boxing insider Rick Glaser says has fighters starting to defect from the PBC. Deontay Wilder was the first. Now promoters are getting calls from fighters looking at other avenues for their respective careers, several citing inactivity and uncertainty at the PBC. My only question is, what took them so long? To which Chris Lovejoy, veteran heavyweight Chris Lovejoy, responded, I thought you said Amazon was only going to be a pay-per-view distributor. Rumor has it that those fighters who the PBC can no longer accommodate with actual fight dates during their downtime will service as extra hands at the Amazon warehouse
And delivery.
which is a good way for those premier boxing champions to make a bit of side cash in between fights, or if they have no fight at all, no fight date, as this Amazon Prime deal only seems to be for in between 12 to 14 shows next calendar year, and they can't accommodate all of these guys.
You're not fucking serious.
Don't be surprised if upon making your next Amazon purchase, should that order arrive, a familiar face come to the door. Maybe a Danny Gersha, your Amazon package has arrived.
No fucking inside. They're not actually going to have these guys running around delivering packages. But the bit about the deal only being for 12 to 14 shows in one calendar year, that bit of it is true.
And we've actually been all through that several times. I told you several times in several videos in the build-up of this, before the news officially broke, that in all likelihood what you're gonna see is a deal to where they can't accommodate all the fighters they've been accommodating, and some of them, they're going to float away. They're going to go wherever the fight dates are. Maybe that's at Top Rank, maybe that's at Matchroom, maybe that's a small hall show to keep busy and make some cash. Now that the PBC ain't what it used to be, fighters are gonna start to leave.
At one point, when they were in bed with both Fox and Showtime, they were able to do something like 30 shows a year. Now, they're down to just between 12 and 14?
It's not as sweet a deal as it sounds. And boxing insider Rick Glaser continued by saying Amazon is paying $0 for everything, which would explain why the PBC would have to foot the costs for production, not dissimilar from what we saw from Fox before they called it quits. It was Marcos Villegas who said that the people at Fox were not paying anything for the last couple of shows the PBC did on their platform, and it was the PBC themselves footing the costs for production.
That's what Rick Glaser is now saying about Amazon, that Amazon's not actually coming out of pocket anything, and all the money to make these shows happen, these 12 or 14 shows or however many it is, it's coming from the PBC directly, according to Rick.
A disgruntled Twitter user that goes by the name Kyle C said, "Nah, Rick, you said Amazon wasn't putting on any non-pay-per-view events. Seems like you and your sources were wrong." To which Rick Glaser responded, Heyman has to fund those events. There's no money from Amazon, only a platform, distribution, and marketing. We'll see how many actually happen. Funding from investors for Heyman will be key. What may be getting lost in translation for anyone like Kyle C is that just because they're doing 1 or 2 non-pay-per-view shows, that it's Amazon paying for them. According to Rick, they're not actually coming out of pocket anything. And most of those 12 or 14 shows that they're set to do on the Amazon platform next year, they're going to be pay-per-views. I mean, 2 of them are going to be Canelo fights, 2 of them are going to be Gervonta Davis fights, at least one of them is going to be the Spence versus Crawford rematch.
At least one of them is going to be David Benavidez's next fight. And what about Caleb Plant versus Jermall Charlo?
What about Danny Garcia versus Erislandy Lara and Thurman versus Stanionis? You have to figure that at least one or some of these other fights are also going to be box office fights. So the way it breaks down, it seems like the vast majority of the 12 to 14 shows they're going to do are going to be behind a paywall.
And not bankrolled by Amazon themselves.
But if it's the way that Rick says it is, and they're not actually receiving any fiscal backing from Amazon, then what's the benefit in choosing Amazon instead of DAZN? DAZN would have actually given them an annual budget to do shows throughout the calendar year. And I think what Al Heyman is thinking is that he can market those pay-per-views, those box office fights he plans on doing, to a large audience on a larger platform than DAZN, with the caveat being, even though Amazon is a bigger platform than DAZN, how many of their subscribers are actually there for sports? Moreover, how many of them are there for boxing?
And how is he supposed to pay for all of this? What are you gonna have, all these guys working off the net?
What is tantamount to crowd-funded boxing. I mean, at least on DAZN, some of those fights would have been part of the regular schedule, and they do have pay-per-view functionality. So those bigger fights and those bigger shows, you could have still staged them as pay-per-views.
Well, he doesn't want to work with them, so it is what it is.
And finally, in men's super lightweight news, per a tweet from the Boxing Voice, just spoke to the manager of Subriel Matias, IBF champion, who confirmed that Teofimo Lopez and his team sent an offer to fight in February, Super Bowl weekend. Unfortunately, Matias' team had to turn it down due to a hand injury. They are now working on rescheduling the fight for April after therapy. A person with knowledge of the situation tells me Teo is fighting on this date in February. Teofimo is showing huge heart.
My jaw dropped when I heard this news because it was starting to look like Subriel Matias was not going to have any luck getting any of the big names in the ring with him, any of the other champions. Fat chance you get Rolly to fight him, and Devin, after this weekend, he plans on moving up to welterweight.
But Teofimo, who was recently on the Porter Way podcast, he was asked about fighting Subriel Matias, and I just didn't get the sense, based on how he spoke and how he looked, this was a fight he was willing to entertain. But we've got confirmation, and it's not via some journalist and their unnamed sources. It's from Team Matias themselves, whoever handles his social media page, saying, Teofimo Lopez, already know you accepted the perfect fight. Just a detail, do not pick the date of February. Let's make it happen at the end of March or early April. Let's give the fanaticada what they want to see. Aim your second defeat and your first defeat for No Mas Tias.
If the fight doesn't materialize for whatever reason, we certainly can't blame Teofimo. Not behind this. We have confirmation from Team Matias that not only were the Lopez people the ones that reached out,
it's Matias, due to some hand injury, that rejected that February fight date. So now Teofimo will fight on in February against an opponent that has yet to be announced. I can only deduce maybe it'll be Jose Ramirez. I'm sure that Jose might be receptive to a fight with Teofimo. Then if he takes care of business, he'll look to fight Subriel Matias sometime in April. It's a hell of a fight, and it's a fight that I've maintained. Teofimo has the right style for an aggressive, mid-range to inside puncher like Subriel Matias. The question is, does he have the right size, the right power, the durability to take what punches get in? Because this isn't Vasyl Lomachenko, a naturally smaller fighter who started out as a featherweight who eventually moved up to lightweight. And this isn't Josh Taylor, a guy who stunk out the joint in his last fight before he fought Lopez, arguably lost, and was emaciating himself to make the weight. This situation with Matias differs from those situations.
What we can say is that Subriel Matias would be the biggest puncher Teofimo has ever fought, even if he's not the most decorated fighter he's ever fought. Vasyl Lomachenko, Josh Taylor, they were more decorated fighters than Subriel Matias is.
But were they bigger punchers than Subriel Matias is? His punching power cannot be questioned. This guy stopped the last 5 guys that he fought, and he actually claimed a man's life. It's not to glorify what he did, just highlighting that this guy is strong. Really strong.
I feel like it's either Teofimo takes him out early or Subriel Matias breaks him down late.
What makes the fight intriguing is that it's not unusual for Subriel Matias to get off to a slow start or a rough start. He did with Jeremias Ponce. He did more recently with Shohan Ergashev. He took a lot of punches in the early goings of the match, but when he got going, he broke those guys down. So that would have to be Teofimo Lopez's window, his opening, to get this guy out of there before they end up in deep waters, because if they do, it doesn't favor him. Now, Matias is said to be unavailable for a February fight date because he's recuperating from a hand injury, though it behooves him and his team to keep the dialogue ongoing, keep the lines of communication open, because there are not many bigger fights that he can have right now bigger than this one.
Not unless the people at the PBC want to put him in the ring with Gervonta. That's the only fight that I can think of that would be bigger than a Lopez fight.
But for Gervonta, Subriel, in spite of being a champion, he's a high-risk, low-reward, the exact kind of opponent that he's spent years avoiding. In many ways, he's that for Teofimo Lopez too, but Lopez, to his credit, he doesn't run from the tough fights. I mean, he's developing more and more of a reputation as being this division's big stepper. The big stepper anywhere at or around these weights. He said he would beat Vasyl Lomachenko, and he did. And he said he'd beat Josh Taylor, and he did that too. Can he beat this guy?
There's only one way to find out.